Hereby call the Iberia Parish Council meeting of June 12th to order. It is now 6:02. Mr. Joel is going to lead us in a prayer.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. May your goodness and love be present among us today. Come bless our gathering with unity, hope, and vision. Lord, we pray for unity. Build in us a deep respect for one another so that we may be one. Lord, we pray for hope. Come stir your hope with our hearts and renew our faith. Lord, we pray for vision. May your vision fill our lives as we seek to reveal your love. We ask this in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Mr. Gonsolin, a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Tommy Pollard.
Here.
Michael Landry.
Here.
Tommy Landry.
Here.
Lloyd Brown.
Here.
Warren Gottschalk.
Here.
Natalie Broussard. Paul Landry.
Here.
Ricky Gonsalas.
here.
Joe Dugas.
Here.
Eugene Olivier. Brian Napier.
Here.
Berwick Francis. Marty Trahan. Chad Montreal.
Okay, we have a quorum, so now we need a motion and a second to go into public comments. I have a motion by Mr. Brown, a second by Mr. Gonsolin. Roll call. Warren, just push it. Okay, we're now in public comments. Public comments. The policy allows for 3 minutes per person. Item number 1, comments from the general public on non-agenda items. A, Mr. Herff Jones, Director of the Mosquito Abatement District, to provide an update on the aircraft grant to the district. Mr. Herff.
Good evening, and thank y'all for giving me a few minutes to talk to you. I'm going to, this evening, Brandon, if you could switch that over for me when you get a chance. Point out some of the essential feasibility factors that we examined to determine that we wanted to proceed with this particular project, and especially regarding the operation of the aircraft once we took possession of it, and what we anticipate our savings to be. And if you will, share with you the numbers. These are some of the cost factors that we looked at. We get a model, a program, a cost analysis program from the manufacturer. We know exactly what this aircraft is going to cost us to operate down to the hour, monthly, annually, however you want to figure it out. We have those details because we know the precise performance of this particular aircraft. The manufacturer has helped us to formulate a model that will fit into what our use patterns are for. The fact that we're going to be using this aircraft for aerial spraying, and the number of hours that we will intend to use it over the mosquito season. In one particular point of this particular aircraft, that it does do mosquito spraying very well, and it does it very safely. So some of the program highlights is when we put all of the integers in to the model, the annual budget for this particular aircraft is about $75,000. But one thing the model did not calculate or properly capture is to fully consider the compensation for the pilot. And with our projections, which you'll see a little later on, are very ultra conservative. This is not a word, but we've hyperinflated our costs related to insurance, our costs related to fuel, and our costs related to expected maintenance. And you'll see our bottom line is still considerably less than what we're spending for contract services right now. And remember that the fixed cost and variable cost for operations will be shared between the two parishes. We're targeting a low-time aircraft, which will give us years of service before we meet any major overhaul necessary for this particular aircraft. It will be recently overhauled and certified, the aircraft that we're selecting. And in the lease purchase agreement, it will facilitate a nearly new aircraft when we take possession of it, meaning that the lessor will be required of the terms of the agreement, the terms of our specifications, to not only add the modifications to the aircraft, but bring the aircraft to a point of nearly new. So this is really the bottom line that we're looking at. I may have skipped one. Let me go back just one more. That based on what we spray now over a 5-year period and what we anticipate our new contract cost to be, we will exceed our budget line item. We will exceed that by $46,000 of what we speculate that the contractor will be charging us in our next new term. And even if we were paying what Vermilion is paying right now, and they're already exposed to those increases, we would also exceed our $250,000 line item. And both programs are exposed to these cost increases now and in the future. And then you can see that Vermilion's program is very similar to ours. And fortunately in a way, they're able to reserve their surplus revenues and offset that cost difference that you see, because Mr. Nogle in Vermilion only has $135,000 slated for his aircraft budget. The in-house aircraft services will again markedly reduce our expenses, eliminate contract minimums, which we're exposed to now. You know, we have to pay for acres that we don't spray. Now we will only pay for what we spray. We'll increase efficiencies, of course, and reduce missed applications. That is pretty, besides the cost savings, that's one of the most devastating impacts, is to have a good day to spray on target here in Iberia and no aircraft or no pilot to do that service for you. So lastly, to put it as plainly as I can put it for you, on this side, I'm sorry, I'm looking at, on the left side of the screen, you'll see what, with our estimates, with our conservative considerations for pilot compensation, fuel consumption, anticipated maintenance, variable costs related to operations, that we overestimate or grossly estimate $152,200 to be able to operate this aircraft annually. And you can see what that portion is compared to our current budget line item, which is already a significant savings. But when you factor in the fact that we will be in a cooperative endeavor with Vermilion Parish for these costs, Iberia's portion of that is just a little bit over $76,000 annually. And this includes insurance, this includes pilot compensation, this includes everything related to maintaining and operating the aircraft. That is a considerable savings when you look at what we're potentially facing at $295,671 in our new contract period. And without question, this is a feasible program going forward. Those savings we can carry forward to the end of the year, or we can do additional spraying with that. Or if we're smart about it, we can set aside those funds for anticipated maintenance costs down the road. So that concludes what I wanted to share with you tonight. And if you look at that, that's roughly about 70%, almost a 70% savings. I'm not saying that I don't want you to fixate on that number, but there's plenty cushion in there to see that it's going to be worth our while.
Okay, we have a couple of questions for you. First up, Mr. Pollard.
Mr. Jones, good evening. The question I have, you have right here on your project and your budget of $75,000. That's both parish or just Iberia Parish?
No, that's what the manufacturer's cost estimate.
Yes, sir.
That's what they're saying that the annual budget for the entire aircraft would be to operate from year to year.
Okay.
But, you know, keep in mind, I did mention that in that formula, it does not include pilot compensation. And we have surveyed, you know, across the state what is reasonable for a pilot fully certified to operate this aircraft over a contract period for just our mosquito season. And it's well within our capability to handle that.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Okay, next up, Mr. Michael Landry.
Yeah, Herb, that pilot, he's going to be contracted or he's going to be hired by Iberia Parish or as a joint?
Yeah, it's going to be a contract, and just for the mosquito season, we do not see the need or feasibility for a full-time salaried pilot, only when we're spraying for mosquitoes. And yes, that cost also will be shared by both parishes.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Mr. Napier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Herb, thank you for coming today. I think the last meeting, this was when Marty and I were asking questions. This is what we wanted to hear. It wasn't that I don't think that anybody was against it. We wanted to get some details. I don't know if I missed it, or do you have any idea? I know it probably fluctuates the pilot costs. I know we saving, looks like, half of what we spending now, but do you have any idea on a normal year? Are y'all anticipating what that cost might be?
For the pilot cost, yeah,
Because that's not in the 76, you're saying.
that is in the 76.
Oh, the pilot cost
Yes,
is
we
in
have,
the
we have
70.
estimated from the figures that we've gotten from across the state, $60,000 is a reasonable contract cost for the pilot, and that of course will be divided between the two of us.
Okay.
And
Oh,
yes,
my bad. Okay.
the 76-100 that the
That's including
pilot's
the pilot on a normal.
pilot salary is included in that.
In there, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gonsalas.
Herb, I wasn't at the last meeting, but just basically looking at the numbers and your anticipated savings, I would, being on the budget and approving the budget for the last several years, I would anticipate that a reduction in your 2020 budget when we come next year based on the savings we have with the new plane, correct? Or
Those savings we will not realize until the following year once we take possession of it ourselves is when we will realize those savings. Until then, the grant will be covering all the expenditures related to that.
But ultimately, there will be you will see a reduction in the overall budget because of this acquisition, I would think, right?
You'll see an overall reduction in our expenditures. I'm not speculating on what my budget will be for 2020, 21, or 22.
Okay. All right.
Okay, next up, Mr. Brown.
But you will see an increase in the distribution of the money at the end of the year.
Right. Of course, those things are, to be examined as that becomes real time. When we say we can carry those savings to the end of the year, that's what we mean by surplus. If we want to do additional spraying with that surplus, if we're facing storms as well. But the bottom line, that's what it is. Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Looks like we have no further questions. I would like to thank you, Mr. Hurd, for thinking outside the box, and, this is the things we need to try to do in every department, to cost savings, so.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Landry.
much.
I appreciate it.
Okay, next item is B, Mr. Brad Credura, Assistant Director of the Sewer District Number 1, to introduce himself to the council. Mr. Brad.
Good evening, everyone.
State your name.
Brad Anthony Crater. Very nice to meet everybody tonight. I just want to say thank you, number one, for the opportunity. It's been a really good month so far, and kind of hit the ground running with 2 rain events in the first month. But it's been a good adventure, learned a lot, and looking forward to continuing and helping the parish any way I can.
Well, I thank you for stepping up and applying for the position. When I was on the sewer board, I know that we had Mr. Joe Gonzalez, who was kind of the field guy and things like that. So, you know, with the changes of the director and things, you know, when it was brought to my attention, I thought this was the perfect thing. You know, we had a savings from the attorney side, you know, and we just moved it over to an infield guy. And so I thank you for your time and stepping up. You know, it's a big system. And it's going to take a lot of learning, but you got time. Just stay with it and keep plugging away at it. And,
Yeah, it is a big system. I've taken the first month really to kind of go around the territory, learn it, looking at areas that could, you know, be helped. More importantly, just want to really kind of grasp what's going on and make sure I can serve all the constituents to the best of my ability.
Well, we appreciate you stepping up, and in the future, we'll have a number of projects coming up, so we'll be glad to join with you on it.
Ready and willing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2, comments from the general public on agenda items, persons being considered for appointment to parish boards or commissions or to address the council. The first person we have up is Mr. Bernard Broussard, summary number 84. Bernard? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the Frank's free foreign trade zone that we'll be voting on, summary number 84? I don't think we have any questions, so I appreciate it. Next up is Mr. David Ditch, and he'll be explaining summary number 86 about the election. Mr. Ditch?
Hello, good evening. I just wanted to come and just thank y'all for having me. I just want to explain a little bit about the upcoming agenda item that y'all going to be voting on tonight in regards to the special election. But first off, I'd like to thank y'all as a council and administration for what y'all do for the employees downstairs at the clerk of court's office. So we really appreciate the support y'all give us from the council and the administration. It's very much appreciated, and the employees want me to send a thanks to y'all for everything that y'all do for them. But also, I wanted to address the special election that'll be called on May 30th. A vacancy occurred with the resignation of Mike Thibodeau. His term was supposed to last until June 30th of this year, which basically created the need to call for the special election this October.
His term was going to go to June 30th of 2020, right?
June 30th of 2020, correct. Okay. And so the unexpired term exceeded a year, and as the clerk's position calls for, it triggered a special election to occur basically the next available election after the local governing authority approves it, which y'all here to do tonight. And so it basically falls on the same day as the general gubernatorial election, which is October 12th. So basically how it can occur, and this is kind of where it gets tricky, if the same candidates qualify for the unexpired term as well as the new term, it'll be one ballot item on the ballot electing someone to serve in both of those capacities. Where it gets a little tricky and a little more confusing, if different candidates qualify, if one person qualifies for the unexpired term, then another person would qualify for the new term, there would actually be 2 ballot items and 2 separate elections on that day. So, and basically, the only part that concerns y'all tonight is the special election, basically calling for that election there. So essentially what we get to do is, as a candidate, get to pay 2 qualifying fees. So that's really the only difference the public should see is just some more revenue going to the Secretary of State. But yeah, so I just wanted to be here tonight. I thank y'all for having me, and answer any questions y'all may have in regards to the special election or anything in regards to the clerk's office, I guess. Anybody have any questions in regards to?
We do have, Mr. Brown has a question for you.
You said if you decide to run, you have to pay 2 fees?
Whoever decides to run, I'm going to be a candidate in the fall, in October, in both the unexpired term as well as the new term. So I will be paying 2 qualifying fees, unfortunately, to qualify for both elections.
All right, that's all.
All right.
Okay, we have next up, Mr. Napier.
So, Mr. Ditch, so just so that, I think I understand it, just to make sure that everybody understands it. The unexpired term, whoever's elected, because y'all gonna have, on the ballot, it's gonna have your name and your opponents, whoever they are,
Correct.
twice.
No, not necessarily. If it's the same opponents, if it's me, you, and Paul Landry qualify for the unexpired term and the new term, it's only gonna be one ballot item listing the unexpired and new term. If me and you qualify and Paul qualifies for the second,
Oh, I got
then
it.
there will be 2 ballot items. And you asked a question that brings up a different point. The unexpired term will begin
That's what I want to
when the actual time period to challenge an election ends. I'm not sure the exact date of that, but whatever, after election day, the qualifying period, the date to challenge it will be the date that the new term begin, for the unexpired term, correct?
Right, and then the new term actually starts, what?
July
June or
1
July
of 2020.
Of next year?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I just wanted
Yeah,
to clarify.
and that was part of my notes that,
Okay,
you know, that was a question I figured you would
okay,
ask.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we have no further questions? Yeah. Yeah. So,
No additional cost at all, and that's one thing that people have asked, why are we paying for another election? It's no additional cost, it's all on the same day that you have an election for, you know, parish council, everything else that we're gonna be electing that same day, so it's definitely no additional cost.
okay, I have one, Mr. Gonsalas.
I just,
Oh,
I'm
all
sorry, I
right.
jumped the gun.
No, that's good. I was in La La Land. Thank you for everything you do, David. We appreciate you coming down and kind of updating us and explaining it to us.
Thank y'all, and I look forward to seeing y'all for the budget.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, now we need a motion and a second. Do we have anyone else in the audience that is applying for any of the other boards or commissions that'll be coming up at a later date? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to go back to regular session. Have a motion by Mr. Goshasan, a second by Mr. Gonsalas. Roll call. Okay, now we're back in regular session. Reports, finance, and administration action. Item number 1, balance sheet for April 2019 on request. Item number 2, budget report for April 2019 on request. Reports, parish and other governmental agencies. The monthly building report dated May 2019 was in your packet. Public Works reports, Public Works Department report for closed work orders dated May 13th, the 20th to 24th, and the 27th to 31st, 2019 was in your packet. Public Works Department report for open work orders dated May 21st, 2019 was in your packet. We have no special business. Council member announcements. Anyone has any announcements? First up, Mr. Napier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 things. First of all, I want to give a big thank you, shout out to Miss Eileen Gonsalas, who had her, with her parents, our buddy over here, Mr. Warren Goshasan, and his wife, put on an awesome lemonade stand on Saturday that brought out a lot of distinguished people. Let me tell you, I met a guy there that's running for governor. I think there was 2 guys running for governor, and a lot of political people, and so even some from the council here that showed up and donated and drank some lemonade. And no, it wasn't spiked. It wasn't spiked. If I'm not mistaken, $3 grand or so went to Acadiana Hope for a Cure. So hats off to Miss Eileen Gonsalas for. I don't know why I got you on my mind, man. Gosh, I'm sorry. Y'all look alike. I'm sorry. The second thing is, the last meeting I was kind of on Waste Connections and Larry's case about trash in District 11. Well, I want to say since our last meeting, with the help of Public Works, they have really stepped up and picked up a lot of stuff. We still got a few things out there, but I just want to say thank you to everybody involved that helped get that, at least in my district, and I know they're working all over the parish. They were behind, but I could see where they're catching up. So thank you to everybody that's helping get all this trash picked up. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No other comments? I would like to say that they had a nice luncheon the other day for the women making a difference in Iberia Parish, and one of our own, Miss Natalie Broussard, was one of the nominees, and also Madison Saunier, the daughter of Scott Saunier. So that was a very good event there. And some of us got an email with the recent closing of some of the schools with the Iberia Parish School Board. They going to have to be moving some of our polling places. So, Mr. Brown, you had the Alternative Center on Bank Street. If you would, contact Miss Christie for some direction. I think, Brian, you had the Jeanneret Elementary. So you need to talk to Christie about what you'd like to see done. Tommy Pollard, North Street Elementary. And I had Dodson Elementary. And what I asked Miss Christie, if there's any kind of way not to go to another building and stuff, try to put them in to see if we could just have less locations. So if each one of y'all would contact her about that, she's going to be looking to notify the people in that area that was voting in those locations to where their new location would be at. Mr. Brown.
On my location, I've contacted everyone that needed to be contacted. In fact, Brenda, did you, it's all gone?
Yeah, and Christie will be sending letters to all the voters to say that location won't be there anymore. Okay, seeing no one else, we will go to parish president's announcements, but
Larry would like everyone to know, the council to know that he's been attending the last couple of days the Gulf States, Counties, and Parishes Caucus meeting in Alabama, and he's actually on his way back to New Iberia tonight.
okay, so moving on next, we have consent agenda items for the public hearing. Minutes for the regular meeting of May 22nd, 2019, and summary number 83, introduced by the Recreation and Playground Commission, a resolution proclaiming the month of July 2019 as Parks and Recreation Month for Iberia Parish. I have a motion by Mr. Goshasan, a second by Mr. Gonsalas. Mr. Goshasan? Mr. Gonsalas? No further, roll call. Okay, those two motions pass. Ordinance introduced for public hearing, there is none. Resolutions introduced for public hearing. Summary number 84, introduced by Paul G. Landry, a resolution in support of the application to the Foreign Trade Zones Board by Frank's International LLC for a subzone site within Foreign Trade Zone 124 to provide for effective date thereof and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. May we have a motion by Mr. Gonsalas, a second by Mr. Trahan. Mr. Gonsalas?
I wait.
Mr. Trahan?
Wait.
Mr. Napier? Okay, Mr. Brown, any comments? Okay, no further discussion. Roll call. That motion passes. Mr. Bernard, we thank you for everything you've been doing, and we
appreciate it. Look forward to more expansion and growth moving forward. This is just one of the tools in the toolbox that makes it more viable for a U.S. company to get foreign work to come back.
And thank you very much. Okay, moving on, summary number 85, introduced by Eugene Olivier, a resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement with St. Nicholas Life Center for the use of its facilities located at 7819 Weeks Island Road to be used as a polling place location for District 10, Precinct 4, which lease shall be for a one-year period with an annual renewal option at a cost of $150 per year per election. I'm sorry. Michael Landry has a motion. Marty Trahan has a second. Michael Landry. Wait. Marty Trahan. Mr. Brown? No further discussion. Roll call. And motion passes. Summary number 86, introduced by the Clerk of the Council, a resolution ordering and calling a special election on October 12, 2019 primary and November 16, 2019 general to fill a vacancy in the office of Iberia Parish Clerk of Court for the remainder of an unexpired term created by the resignation of Mr. Michael Thibodeau, all in accordance with the state statute. Note, a motion and a second to suspend the rules will be needed, as this item was not considered by the Executive Committee due to the time constraints. Elections to be called by June 19, 2019. The remainder of the unexpired term is from the date of election through June 30th, 2020. So I'm looking for a motion and a second to suspend. I have a motion by Mr. Gonsalas, a second by Tommy Landry. Mr. Gonsalas.
I move to suspend the rules.
Okay, Mr. Tommy Landry. Okay, we're voting to suspend the rules. Roll call. Okay, that motion passes. We've suspended the rules. Now we're back looking for a motion and a second on summary number 86. I have a motion by Mr. Gonsalas, a second by Michael Landry. Mr. Gonsalas.
I'll wait.
Okay, Michael Landry.
Wait.
Okay, Mr. Brown. No further discussion. Roll call. That motion passes. Ordinance introduced for publication. We have none. I need a roll call on adjournment. Have a motion by Mr. Gonsalas, a second by Mr. Brown. Roll call. Tommy. That motion passes. We now adjourn.